Alrighty, team. Well, sorry for the lack of content-arino. We got back from Singapore about a week ago, maybe a bit less. To be fair, we've had a few games, but obviously by the weekend got a bit distracted by Pro Tour Lille. Unfortunately unable to attend, but looked like a great event and many people from our side of the world having a great time over there with you wonderful Europeans, Americans, UK lot. And more. So basically tonight, just wanted to bring you a couple of decks that we were testing and hoping to be able to play by Singapore. Ironically, the reason I didn't go for either this Iyslander here or Dromai was mainly because of Prism. And to be honest, she's been probably my favorite hero in the game so far. Prior to Prism, I really enjoyed the likes of, some Guardian play with big attacks that did things. I quite liked Dorinthia with reactions feeling a little bit like surprises and I guess equivalent to instants. And I loved Wizards. So, Prism just being this like gorgeous hero with amazing art on all the heralds and these cool artworks with all the spectras and whatnot. It just felt like it gave me a bit of everything that I wanted. Some big attacks, hopefully getting through, some instant speed shenanigans, and yeah, some variation in gameplay. But she is no more. I was happy the night that Briar went into top four Briar decks in top 4 of Pro Tour. I kind of just got took me this long, but I got to the point where I was very, very confident on Prism and felt like I could play and have chance in every match, including even Phi. 3-0 against Briars at Pro Tour 1 and calling Singapore across the board. And yeah, I was ready to give her one last shot at Nationals, but it's not to be. So goodbye, Prism, for now. And yeah, I do have to be honest, it was a bit of an emotional time, a bit worse than I expected. Whilst I honestly do think it's great that it opens up the format and I'll get to play some of these other decks that I otherwise didn't because of her, I will still miss her a lot. So, c'est la vie. So we just thought we'd bring you a bit of a run through of this Iyslander. We've gone up and down on a bit of a journey with Iyslander so far. Originally I just did not like the defense reacty build and trying to get frost hexes, insidious chills, all that kind of stuff out, just felt too slow, and then you die. So we initially built a much more proactive list with a lot more red heavy damage, and pushing enough through the game that you could just end them on one frost hex, and then play a freezing point, maybe with a snapback and so on, all off the Storm Striders. But since I've had some discussions with people, I've seen some decks play out. Obviously there's been some results, particularly in Singapore there were some results with Iyslander decks. So just kind of gone back to a bit of a hybrid, and to be honest, we haven't played this a lot, so I can't tell you much about it as such. But the main key differences we like here is Scalding Rain red. So it's basically an Ether Hail red, but just not an ice card. But with that blue pitch, you're getting the lovely synergy of this into Waning Moon for 6 damage on your turn from 2 cards. And the other card that is very good at multiple stages in the game is the classic Snapback red. It is banned in Blitz, so it must be somewhat good. But in Iyslander, it feels even more, appealing than perhaps Kano these days, because she only has the one chance really per turn of an instant speed spell from her arsenal if it's blue. So with Snapback, it allows you to kind of have that second spell that you can play for damage that on top of the Waning Moon. It works very well with obviously 0 cost blue spells, so your Brain Freeze, Frosting, Icebind blue, you know, you end up pushing 6 damage, I guess. 7 damage, sorry, in their turn. But then also at the end of the game, you know, your opponent may be on 11 life and they're thinking, oh, I've only got 1 Frost Hex out, you know, this isn't too bad, I'm going to go in for the kill. If you just get off a good freezing point for 6 plus this plus Waning Moon, it's 12 damage. And basically this 3 damage here is what they're not accounting for. So very much like this card. Once you see the list, you know, if you've been playing this deck already or you've been looking into Iyslander, you could say that these 3 could be Sink Below Reds and these 3 could be Oasis Respite. But we'll just have to see how it goes, right? Like these cards, obviously, Sink Below and Respite will be good into, say, your Bravo matchups and, of course, like your Briar matchups. But at the same time, I would assume initially that these 6 cards should kind of do the same job, but in a proactive manner as opposed to a defensive manner. So if they want to block these, you're taking cards out of their hand and giving you kind of the same amount of time as the defensive cards would be. And if they don't block them, then they're going down way quicker and allowing you to hopefully kill them at the end of the game a bit easier anyway. So this is an option and what we've gone with and what we like. Then we have Nourishing Emptiness. This card's just obviously nuts. We're not playing any poppers in this list yet. We're opting for future Dromai matchups that we anticipate. We've got a lot more you know, blues that shoot any target, so killing off Aether Wings as we need and just stopping their turns. But we'll have to see again how that goes. You know, if Dromai get super prolific, then perhaps we look at a couple of poppers or something else. But whenever you play Nourishing, it feels like you just win the game, so that's nice. Sigil of Permafrost Red, that crucial 4 block points, and of course this is the card that shuts down most aggro turns when you play it, as long as you can get a spell out of Arsenal and then Waning Moon, or if the spell from Arsenal deals 3 or 4 damage, then you're good to go, because even if they prevent the damage, they've still used those cards to prevent damage, the same as they would if they had to pay for Frostbite, so it just gets them in a real bind. Speaking of bind, we've got Icebind. So we played Encase for a while as well. We like these 0 cost reds because they pair well with the snapback. Encase seemed a bit corner casey. It kind of just works against Phi and, you know, forces perhaps a Bravo to want to block. Otherwise he can't dominate anyway, sort of thing. So it wasn't great. There weren't many other heroes it felt like it did a lot against. However, Icebind is still very relevant, you know. If we're playing CNC and other things that pressure Arsenal, then of course Icebind can be a great card as well for 0. Makes them think. Aether Icevein, obviously a very good card. In red, 5 damage, it gets over all the arcane barrier, and if they can't block it all, they're going to pay or discard. And often people will just prevent 1 arcane with a blue and then use the other 2 floating to pay for the tax, but then they're taking 4 damage, so that's fantastic. Freezing Point, this is often a 3 for 5 without an effect, so some cases it's worse than Aether Icevein, but of course you just want 3 so that in the games where you want to see them, you do see them. And of course these pair well near the end of the game when and if you have managed to get out, you know, 1 to 2 Frost Hex, and maybe made some Frostbites in that last turn as well. The last red card we have for now is Aether Hail Red. So again, very similar in terms of stats. Well, it's the same in terms of stats to Scalding Rain, but this is an ice card, so it just helps with our ice count and ups that a little bit. But yeah, 1 for 4 is great and pushes over most Arcane Barrier again. Speaking of Arcane Barrier and pushing over, most decks are probably playing 3 on average, or at the higher end is mostly 3. There's a few 4s, but not many. So Aether Icevein at 4 damage is pretty good, and having a few yellows in the deck is okay. When we play a 0 cost damage spell, say mid-game, and Waning Moon, we can pay perhaps with the Aether Icevein for the Waning Moon, and not be too sad that we're missing enough blues in that turn. Moving on to blues, Frost Hex, we all know what this does. I wouldn't say that you should lose games trying to commit to playing all three of these out. You should be able to win playing 1 to 2. And of course, if you go first, you know, great card to sack on turn 1. Channel Lake Frigid, of course, it's a great card. We all know again what this one does. Playing it on their turn lets you basically have it for 2 turns for the price of 1. And occasionally you can get it up to 2 counters. We used to run a few more ice reds, which we found helped with keeping Channel Lake around, you know, easier. But we don't now, and we don't currently run the Crown of Ice or Coronet Peak. Maybe we will, who knows, but don't love it compared to the blocking ability of Skullcap. Aether Hail Blue, again, very good card. 1 pairs on with a blue, this, Waning Moon, Frostbite, 2 and 3. Great card. Frosting, we got down to 2 of these. They're occasionally underwhelming, but they're blue. They block for 3, and they're still a wizard card to pair with Snapback at 0, and they deal an arcane. And these will be good again in the fight against Dromize. I anticipate coming up more in the new meta. Ice Bolt Blue, again, it's sometimes awkward. You may not get to pair it with the Waning if you don't have a Tunic counter or something like that, but at the same time, it can help you if you've got enough cards and you want to play this in Waning Moon. It can help you, incentivize you to pitch a red with a blue, which will be obviously handy late game in many cases. It does just do 3 damage as well, so sometimes it can be what you want. Then we move on to Amulet of Ice. This is just going to be against those higher AB, you know, Null Rune decks. So 3 or 4 Null Rune. Amulet of Ice is pretty handy. You don't really want to play it, I wouldn't think, into many aggro decks just because it doesn't block. And of course, whilst it could go in your arsenal and get played from there, it's obviously going to have to hit your hand first. And if you get caught out with like 2-0 blocks against a Briar deck, for example, you're not going to be having a good time. Winter's Bite Blue, took that out for a while, but we'll just put it back in and see how it goes. It should be actually pretty good against actually the slower decks as much as the aggro decks, so it is a bit of a utility card. Making them have to go down a card in their turn could really help. They may not get the arsenal, or they may, you know, if they do something before a big attack, they just may not get to play that big attack suddenly, so it should be good. Insidious Chill, kind of, again, don't try and play them all out. In most cases, you know, you don't have to have 3 of these and 3 Frost Hex out to win. We didn't have this card at all in the earlier iteration, but we've gone up a bit on Sigil of Permafrost, and we've added the 3 yellow Ice Vein, so this is more of an opportunity card. 3 of these and 3 Frost Hex, turn 1, if you get made to play first, or you choose to play first, it just gives you 6 good chances, 6 good cards to just play on turn 1. That will add a lot of value. Into aggro, again, I wasn't on Blizzard for a good time, but now I think, you know, just if you have a blue ice in arsenal and a Blizzard in hand, it's just going to stop their turn. You know, 2 plus Frostbites, plus the tax of 2, plus whatever comes out. It's just going to give you another turn for free. Hypothermia, still very good card. Catch out 5 players depending how they sequence. Obviously shuts down nearly every Briar attack. It's good against certain Brood attacks. It's insane against Lexi, insane against Dash. So just a very, very good card. Cold Snap's great. It kind of just, again, makes your opponent think and have to make decisions. Gives a Frostbite, but the biggest thing as well is it draws you an extra card. So whether that helps you to set up and plan your next turn, or it's just an extra card to block with, you can't go too wrong there. And the last ice card is Arctic Incarceration. Quite a similar card overall, I feel, to Winter's Bite, but you know, just straight tax rather than making them have to pay 1 or discard. So yeah, same but different. So quite a few ice cards here. I believe it's with these and the Aether Hails around 37, 38. Then non-ice blues, we got Sigil of Permafrost blue. Now I know 2 blocks a weird amount, but honestly it's more for the effect. So again, like I said over here, this should just shut down most aggro turns when you play it. So even if you leak 2 damage, they're probably not going to come in with anything after that. And before you want to play it, it's just a 3, which is what we're looking for, 3 pitch, sorry. So you want these blue cards in your deck. Energy Potion, again, similar to the Amulet of Ice. These are more just there for popping out where and when you can. You don't want these in against, you know, the more aggressive on hit decks, but against decks where you might go slower and get a chance to set up a bigger turn or a bigger couple of turns, Energy Potion will be great to help you cast bigger things like Ice Eternal. Ice Eternal, we all know what that does. Cast it for as much as you can. They get a ton of Frostbites. Hopefully they have 2 Frost Hexes out. Value. Even if not, it's similar against aggro mid-game as the Sigil of Permafrost. It's not too hard to play it for like 6, so X equals 3. They get 3 Frostbites, you threaten some damage, and hopefully their turn's about over. Icebind blue, at worst this is a 3 block, but again it's a 0, so it pairs well with Snapback as a wizard action, and it deals 1 damage to any target. So again with the Dromai matchups, this could just stop their turn. Cheeky 1 damage for 0, Waning Moon if you can, and that's happy days. And then similar again for the 0 cost, again with the Snapback, 3 block. This one is very good against certain aggro decks, again Fi and Briar. A lot of their cards will cost 0. We found it's not great against Viserai because most of their 0s are in the form of, you know, Lead the Charge and Morvrian Skies, which, you know, they'll get to play that on first priority before you can play the Brain Freeze. So, you know, you may or may not play that against Viserai, but, you know, you should be pretty safe against Fi, Briar, and even Lexi. Lexi has quite a lot of 0s as well. So this card is actually very good into aggro. Into your slower matchups like Guardian and whatnot, you kind of just would play a lot more redundant, or like cards that are not amazing against them but that still block for 3. You know, if you don't want to leak too much from, say, an Anathos or something like that. So yeah, we won't go for a full sideboard guide just yet because I, to be honest, need to play it a bit more in this form to know what to say, but you got a general idea, and we're going to have a game in this next bit against Oldhim. So a bit of an ice off in the next video. So thanks for watching, and let us know how you're going with Iyslander. And of course, like and subscribe.